System explosion reward. Asterisk, the system core within the dungeon concealed a secret weapon. Fully destroying the system has unlocked it. Asterisk. Oh, Yu Qing raised an eyebrow. What had started as simple payback had turned into an unexpected bonus. For a moment, he found himself missing the system he'd just blown to pieces. Gripping the knife's hilt, he lifted it, and more text materialized beside him. Item name, I'm the knife now. Item function. Yu Qing's pupils dilated slightly. After reading the function, his expression remained calm, but as he exited, his eyes held a faint smile. He strode steadily toward the stairwell, heading straight for the mass of black mist that had tormented him earlier. Tap, tap, tap. His steady footsteps echoed down the corridor. The black mist seemed to sense his approach, twisting and writhing in excitement. This mist, it seemed to have a strange affection for him. Recalling how the mist had previously explored his body, Yu Qing slowed his pace, stopping half a meter away. He extended his hand, his fingertips lightly hooking a wisp of the thin mist, attempting to lure it. But the black mist didn't react, nor did it form the black hand from before. Yu Qing frowned, trying a few more times, but still, no hand appeared. Growing impatient, he stepped forward another half step, plunging his entire hand into the mist and stirring it around aimlessly. Suddenly, a small black hand emerged, slowly forming. It started the size of an infant's hand and gradually grew larger until it became an adult-sized hand, firmly gripping his wrist. Finally, it revealed itself. Yu Qing's gaze sharpened as he observed this hand closely. It was well-proportioned, with distinct joints, and quite beautiful. If it were attached to a body, it would undoubtedly look stunning. What a pity! He gently twisted his wrist, slowly breaking free of its grasp, and began to stroke the hand's back, wrist, and palm. A tingling sensation spread as he touched it. He could feel the hand, formed from the mist, gradually solidify and even grow warm. Ignoring the sensation, he continued to toy with it, spreading its fingers and interlocking them with his own, holding it tightly. In the next moment, he raised the knife with his other hand, aiming it at the black hand, ready to strike. If he could cut it off, the knife's analysis would reveal the true nature of the black mist. Know your enemy, and you'll never lose. But the black mist, seemingly alarmed by the heat radiating from the hand, acted swiftly. Before the blade could fall, another hand shot out, decisively slapping the knife from his grip. The knife clattered to the ground with a metallic clang, and Yu Qing's wrist throbbed in pain. He let out a soft hiss, finding the situation odd. Why was the hand he held so hot, yet the one that struck the knife wasn't? What was this thing, and what did it want from him? His knife hand went numb, and his wrist reddened. He reached for the fallen knife, but before he could grab it, two more black hands emerged from the mist, one on each side, gripping his waist tightly. Yu Qing's movements were restricted. Then, yet another black hand slowly reached out, its fingers brushing against the earring dangling from his ear. The icy fingertips slid over his earlobe before clamping down on his entire left ear with force. The grip was so strong it felt like it was trying to tear something from within him. If he didn't fight back soon, his ear was about to be ripped clean off. Yu Qing cursed under his breath, gripping the scorching black hand tightly in his palm. A miracle happened. The black hand twitched violently and grew slightly larger. It could grow? Could this be some kind of eerie entity? With that thought, Yu Qing's eyes narrowed. He took a bold step forward and tilted his head, pressing a kiss to the heated black hand. The black hand twitched again, as if it had never been treated this way before. It quivered with excitement, pressing closer to the boy's lips. Yu Qing became more convinced of his theory. There was no way he could overpower this boss in strength alone. This was his only chance. Yu Qing continued kissing the black hand, becoming more deliberate and passionate. He let out a soft hum, tears sliding from the corners of his eyes as if the encounter had genuinely hurt him. Feigning a coquettish attitude, he lightly bit one of the black hand's fingers. His warm breath blended into the surrounding mist. The hand gripping his ear finally relaxed, and the arm circling his waist loosened into a gentler hold. With a faint smile at the corner of his lips, Yu Qing kissed the hand that clasped his own, his lips trailing over its distinct joints before gently taking a fingertip into his mouth. The black hand trembled violently. Its strength suddenly softened, completely relaxing. Yu Qing continued kissing the hand, his expression calm and focused. Seizing the opportunity, he broke free from its grasp and slowly retreated. He knew well that venturing too far into the black mist would drain his survival points, but without the system to monitor the depletion, taking risks was too dangerous. If he couldn't defeat the boss this time, he'd wait for the next opportunity. As he backed into a safer area, preparing to release the hand, it suddenly extended without hesitation, its fingertips grazing his tongue. MMPH. With a thud, Yu Qing was forced to stagger back 2 steps, his back hitting the wall as he tilted his head to endure the hand's teasing. Tears began to well up at the corners of his eyes. His throat bobbed uncontrollably, sweat trickling down his neck. His voice grew hoarse and strained, breaking into fragmented murmurs of and ugh. After the ghostly woman's disappearance, the floor remained eerily silent. No one approached. No one could help him. Yu Qing's breathing quickened, his white hair disheveled. Tentatively, he crouched down and reached for the knife on the ground. Just as his fingertips grazed the handle, two more hands clamped down on his shoulders, pinning him in place and draining any strength he had left to resist. MMPH. His eyelids twitched as saliva dripped from the corner of his lips. The relentless hands showed no sign of letting go, as if unwilling to spare him. Yu Qing wanted to bite back, but he couldn't even close his teeth. Gritting his resolve, he reached up again to grip the knife handle and swung it forcefully. Cough, cough. The hands dodged swiftly, giving him no chance to strike. But Yu Qing had finally earned a brief moment to catch his breath. Sweat soaked through his white hair at his temples. He tried to sit up but found himself too weak, collapsing back to the ground, gasping for air. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Yu Qing's gaze sharpened. The noise was distinctly different from the thud of the ghostly woman. These footsteps were hurried, accompanied by labored breathing, likely someone fleeing for their life. Bang! Just as the thought crossed his mind, a scar-faced man burst down the stairs, leaning against the wall as he panted heavily. His hair was cropped short, and he wore a faded prison uniform. Clearly exhausted from his escape, his breathing was erratic and aggressive, exuding a sense of danger. Yu Qing's fingers twitched slightly, wanting to turn his head to observe, but he conserved his strength, choosing instead to lie back and continue catching his breath. Two sets of breaths intertwined, echoing in the empty stairwell. The man's gaze wandered until it landed on the boy not far away. A greedy glint flashed in his eyes. The livestream chat lit up with excitement. Holy crap! A beauty! Looks like they just escaped something. No strength left, Yu Qing cursed under his breath, gripping the burning black hand tightly. Then, a miracle happened. The black hand suddenly twitched and grew larger. It could grow? Could this be some kind of eerie phenomenon? With that thought, Yu Qing's gaze sharpened. He boldly took 2 steps forward and tilted his head to kiss the searing black hand. The black hand twitched again, seemingly unused to such treatment. It moved excitedly, pressing closer to the boy's lips. Yu Qing became more certain of his hypothesis. There was no way he could defeat this boss in terms of power alone, he'd have to rely on this instead. Yu Qing continued kissing the black hand, becoming more engaged. He let out a soft hum, tears spilling from the corners of his eyes as if he were genuinely in pain. Feigning a coquettish demeanor, he even bit lightly on one of the black hand's fingers. Warm breath mingled with the surrounding mist. The hand gripping his ear finally loosened, and the one around his waist softened, becoming less restrictive. With a faint, knowing smile, Yu Qing kissed the hand clasped in his own with great care. He traced the defined joints with his lips before lightly biting down on the fingertips. The black hand shuddered violently. Its strength suddenly dissipated, the tension draining away completely. Still smiling, Yu Qing continued to kiss the hand, using the opportunity to wriggle free from all its restraints. Step by cautious step, he retreated. He understood the danger clearly. Being fully immersed in the black mist would deplete his survival points. Without the system, he couldn't gauge how much, and he couldn't risk it. If he couldn't beat the boss this time, he'd just have to wait for the next opportunity. Once he reached a safe zone, Yu Qing prepared to release the black hand. But before he could, it abruptly extended, its fingertips teasing his tongue. Thud. Yu Qing was forced back 2 steps, cornered against a wall as he endured the hand's relentless teasing. Tears began to well up at the corners of his eyes. His throat bobbed involuntarily, his neck damp with sweat. The sensation in his throat was unbearable, and he could only let out fragmented sounds of and. Since the ghostly old woman had vanished, the floor was eerily silent. There was no one else nearby, no one who could help him. Yu Qing's breaths grew rapid, his white hair disheveled. Testing his limits, he crouched down to reach for the knife on the ground. Just as his fingertips brushed the hilt, 2 additional hands appeared, pressing down on his shoulders and pinning him firmly in place. The force sapped any remaining strength he had to resist. MMNGH. His eye twitched as saliva slid down the corner of his mouth. The hand didn't relent, almost as if it was reluctant to let him go. He tried to bite down, but even his teeth wouldn't cooperate. Left with no other choice, Yu Qing gripped the knife handle tightly once more and swung it with all his might. Cough, cough. The hand recoiled swiftly, denying him the chance to strike. But Yu Qing finally managed to snatch a brief moment to catch his breath. Sweat stained his white hair at the temples. He wanted to sit up, but his body felt weak, leaving him lying there as he panted for air. Footsteps echoed heavily down the hallway, catching Yu Qing's attention. His eyes flickered. These steps were different from the ghostly old woman's thud sound. These were quick, urgent, accompanied by labored breathing. Someone was running for their life. Clank! Before Yuqing could process the thought, a scar-faced man came barreling down the stairs, leaning against the wall as he gasped for air. The man had short hair and wore faded prison garb. His hurried escape left him winded and irritable, a dangerous aura emanating from him. Yuqing's fingertips twitched, wanting to glance over, but he lacked the strength to waste on unnecessary movements. Instead, he remained lying there, catching his breath. Two sets of breaths intertwined, reverberating in the empty hallway. The man's eyes darted around, eventually landing on the nearby boy. A greedy look crept across his face. The livestream chat exploded with excitement. Holy crap! A beauty! Looks like he's just barely escaped something. That panting is so enticing, go for it, streamer. Wait, what's going on? That guy's a lunatic, a death row inmate. He raped and killed 189 young girls over 3 years, averaging 14 years old each. Damn, he's done for. Is that hair long? Is it a guy or a girl? Doesn't matter if it's a guy or a girl. Fun's fun. Livestream viewers, don't forget to send tips. The man's raspy voice interrupted the chat's speculation as he approached Yuqing. He loomed over him, eyes fixated on the boy's frail frame. The youth's lips were red, his teeth white, his shirt disheveled, and his body covered in red marks. Ha! Damn, the man laughed, revealing yellowed, uneven teeth. Looks like someone's already had their way with you. What a wanton little thing. Yuqing couldn't see the livestream screen, but the man's gleeful expression told him the chat was in utter chaos. Beautiful thing, I've been waiting for someone like you. Let's have some fun together, the man sneered, fumbling to undo his belt. Before he could continue, Yuqing interrupted him. Greetings, dear streamer. I'm your assigned guide NPC. The man froze in place, his expression darkening as realization hit him, his confidence crumbling. His eyes nearly popped out of his head. Yuqing continued calmly, I just spent quite a while entertaining my husband, so I'm out of energy for now. Please understand. An NPC? Streamers couldn't harm NPCs, especially not one who was married to a black mist boss. Panic overtook the man as he stumbled back a few steps. His eyes darted nervously to the black mist still curling around them. His pupils shrank in terror, his breath hitching. Suddenly, dozens of hands burst from the black mist. The fastest one seized his left shoulder, crushing the bone with a sickening crunch. His agonized screams echoed as cold sweat drenched his body. He flailed desperately, clawing his way forward, only to collapse in a heap. He cursed under his breath, directing his anger at the livestream chat. Yuqing slowly stood, dusting off his clothes. He stood before the dense black mist, staring down at the trembling man. His eyes curved into a smile. What a shame. You've gone and upset my husband. I could have shown you some hospitality, but now. Casually twirling the double-edged knife in her hand, Yuqing took deliberate steps forward. The man's breathing quickened as he backed into a corner. Gritting his teeth through the searing pain in his shattered shoulder, he knelt and began to beg, I was wrong. I didn't mean to covet you, I misspoke. The knife's tip pressed against his forehead, cutting into his skin as blood began to trickle down. 2 lines of text appeared on the knife's handle. Entity, human, death row inmate. Crimes, rape and murder of 189 underage girls over 3 years. Oh, so you're scum. This knife was truly something special, it could analyze both the target's nature and their wrongdoings. Yuqing dragged the blade lightly across the man's forehead. The scar-faced man, trembling, glanced behind her, his eyes suddenly alight with hope. He noticed the viewer count in the livestream had skyrocketed, jumping from 503 to over 8,000. For a moment, he wondered why he was suddenly so popular. The chat was flooded with comments like Chung Ching, Ching's wife. Then he spotted one that made his heart sink. I found Yuqing in another streamer's feed. Someone spent 10 million to protect the streamer. Wild. 10 million to protect a streamer? So the knife-wielding figure before him was a streamer too? The scar-faced man's expression darkened as he reached out, attempting to grab the knife, but the boy stepped on his mangled shoulder. Arg! Broken bone fragments shifted painfully. With another stomp, the man howled in agony. Yuqing raised a finger to his lips. Shoo! Be good. I'm only carving I'm a piece of trash into your forehead. I won't kill you. But if you move again, I can't promise the blade won't slip and slice your throat. The pain made him feel feverish, completely sapping his will to fight back. His eyes burned with hatred. You're a streamer? Yuqing shook his head. The livestream chat exploded. News system online. Ching's livestream is back. First comment. A small blue dot appeared above the teenager's head, clearly marking him as a streamer. The burly man was speechless. Yuqing ignored him and continued carving into the wood. The sharp pain jolted through the man's body as he trembled, trying in vain to resist. His vision was consumed by a growing shadow. Suddenly, a black mist broke through the barrier behind him, pouring into the hallway and swirling around Yuqing. Out of the dense shadows, two hands emerged, resting firmly on the teenager's shoulders. The burly man's fingers quivered. He wanted to feel fear, but then it hit him, Yu Qing was a streamer too. A streamer couldn't possibly be the boss's lover, right? Now the boss was going to kill him. He was doomed. The burly man's eyes curved into a strange expression, and even the pain seemed to lessen slightly. He tried to shift his focus, staring intently down an escape route, planning to flee the moment Yu Qing was dead. After 3 minutes of contemplation, he watched as one of the black hands moved closer, about to clamp over Yu Qing's mouth. Excitement gleamed in his eyes. But then, suddenly, pop. Yu Qing turned his head, giving the black hand a light kiss before playfully nibbling on its fingertip and blowing on it gently, as if soothing a child. "Don't mess around. I'm avenging you," he murmured. The black mist paused, writhing in confusion, clearly unsure of what Yu Qing meant. A moment later, more hands formed from the mist, reaching out to grab the burly man's waist, continuing their exploration. In that brief moment of hesitation, Yu Qing swiftly finished carving the last character. The final stroke was particularly deep, cutting into the bone and causing the burly man to pass out from the excruciating pain. Strangely, Yu Qing didn't seem the least bit concerned about the hands still clinging to him. Even as one black hand slipped under his shirt in search, he remained unfazed. Instead, he took a step back, opened the system interface, and looked down at the unconscious man with a domineering smirk. "You made my husband angry. That's a death sentence, but points can buy you a reprieve." As he spoke, one of the black hands suddenly squeezed hard, leaving a red mark. Yu Qing frowned but didn't seem scared. Instead, he scolded the hand softly, as if he was both enjoying it and warning it. This demeanor was nothing like a streamer's. The burly man was utterly baffled. Could Yu Qing really be a guide NPC? Was the little blue dot just an illusion? Was the livestream chat tricking him for laughs? His brain worked overtime, but he couldn't figure it out. In the end, he chose to believe it. Scrambling, he transferred all 300 points he had. The livestream chat erupted in laughter. "The moment I leave, my wife tames the boss? And scams him for points? Iconic. Qing Qing forever the legend. How did Qing Qing pretend to be an NPC to trick the predator? So devious, I love it. He actually believed it? I'm dying of laughter. Anyway, back to admiring my wife's beauty. Bye." The burly man watched as the number of viewers in the livestream plummeted, dropping to under 500. No points, no audience, a wounded shoulder, and still no match for them. Fury coursed through him. He was used to being the one dishing out pain, why was it reversed today? The stark contrast made his heart race and his face flush. Before long, his eyes rolled back, and he passed out from sheer frustration. Yu Qing didn't have time to care about him. The moment the points transferred, he heard more chaotic footsteps approaching, several people, all coming together. No time to waste. His expression shifted. Gripping his dual-bladed dagger, he charged toward the black mist without hesitation. The mist, seemingly angered, had weakened after breaking through its restraints. It writhed and twitched under Yu Qing's assault. After a brief struggle, the mist retreated reluctantly to the stairwell. This time, Yu Qing managed to sever a wisp of the mist. His blade trembled, the substance on it unidentifiable. Leaning against a wall, Yu Qing waited for what felt like an eternity before 2 lines of text appeared on the dagger's hilt. Entity, supreme, unmatched, ultimate boss. Cause of formation. Yu Qing was puzzled, staring at the blank line, trying to decipher it. Just as he was deep in thought, noise rose again from the stairwell. Yu Qing quickly sheathed his blade and looked up to see a group of 8 people rushing up to the 3rd floor. The livestream chat buzzed with excitement. This group of newbies looks promising. Could be fun. The 8 newcomers, led by a young man in traditional Chinese clothing adorned with talismans, were panting heavily. They seemed to have formed an alliance, only resting after confirming their safety. They remained silent throughout. The night grew darker, the air heavy with a deathly stillness. No one knew how many terrifying monsters lurked in the shadows. Tonight, perhaps. Nothing else would happen, right? Beep 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 beep. The alarm jolted Yu Qing awake. He opened his eyes, squinting against the harsh light. Covering his ears, he winced as a sharp announcement echoed with authority. Danger is lifted at 8 a.m. The asylum is officially open. All patients with chest tags, please proceed to the 1st floor for registration. Repeating, danger is lifted at 8 a.m. Rubbing his ears groggily, Yu Qing blinked. Morning already? The young man in traditional garb pulled him up. The wounded, staggering burly man trailed behind them. Passing the stairwell, Yu Qing noticed the black mist had completely dissipated. Sunlight poured in, illuminating everything. The flowers bloomed vibrantly, and even the bloodstained walls appeared clean and pristine. At a glance, the asylum seemed no different from an ordinary one. The boss that had hounded him all night was gone. The hallways were eerily empty. Yu Qing's fingertips trembled slightly as he discreetly stored his blade back into the system space. On his way downstairs, he paused on the staircase for a moment, his gaze dropping with a complex, unreadable expression. The livestream chat piped up, he's thinking about his husband. Asterisk. Downstairs, faint footsteps could be heard. A nurse in a white coat worked at the front desk, her beauty and gentle voice captivating. She handed each streamer a small bell. These bells, she explained softly, have been blessed by a master, per the director's request. They're key to proving your identity. At night, the asylum will be haunted. Ghosts won't harm anyone wearing a bell, so please keep them on. Only doctors have the authority to harm patients. Whatever you do, don't provoke the doctors. Her voice was soothing, her delicate fingers pale and flawless. The predator from earlier couldn't help swallowing hard, his gaze fixated. But bound by the rules of the instance, the man reluctantly took the bell, gritting his teeth in frustration as he moved away. The nurse's words, however, didn't seem to concern him much. Yu Qing brought up the rear, walking while keeping his eyes on his system screen. The livestream viewers watched him closely, their curiosity piqued, as he purchased a bottle of healing potion. Healing potion, drink up to 3 sips to heal all wounds. Price, 30,000 points. This type of potion was a bestseller in the system's marketplace, its price steep especially for a top-tier one like this. Yu Qing's points are running out, someone in the livestream commented worriedly. That arm wound was self-inflicted. Does he really need such an expensive potion? It's his points, and if he wants to use them to heal, what's wrong with that? Our wife has a soft heart, nothing wrong with that. I'm just worried about his points. Don't come at me. The livestream had over 10,000 viewers, and the chat was bustling with heated debates about when Yu Qing would drink the potion. Suddenly, the viewers watched as he walked away from the crowd and handed the bottle purchased for 30,000 points to the nurse. The nurse froze, her wide, watery eyes fixed on him. He said, "Take 3 sips, it might heal your wounds. If it doesn't, just drink the whole thing." After speaking, he fastened a bell onto his wrist with one hand and walked off with the group. The nurse stood there in a daze. After a long while, she lowered her head, and her eyes moistened with tears. Her trembling hands reached for the potion. As her sleeve slipped slightly, a patch of bruised, purplish skin on her wrist was revealed. After receiving the bells, everyone was required to head to the second floor to register their names and conditions with the doctor. Yu Qing's livestream chat was in chaos. Is the streamer insane? 30,000 points. Who's gifting him that many points every day? And he just gives the potion to an NPC? That nurse has bruises all over, even on her neck and head. Yu Qing must have noticed and decided to help. Ugh, my wife is too kind. Yu Qing must have his reasons. The chat scrolled endlessly as the door to the psychiatric ward on the second floor opened and the doctor began calling names. A convicted rapist, Hu Zibiao, was at the front. Seeing the male doctor's refined demeanor, he slammed his hand on the desk and said, "Hu Zibiao." The doctor nodded and typed the name into the computer. Unfazed by the supernatural during the day and confident in his own bravado, Hu Zibiao felt emboldened by the compliant NPCs. He slammed the desk again. "My shoulder's shattered. Can you fix it?" The doctor smiled faintly. "No. This is a psychiatric facility." Damn. Hu Zibiao grew impatient. Having been tricked out of all his points by Yu Qing, he had no choice but to rely on the NPCs. He grabbed the doctor's collar roughly. "You think I'm joking? A whole place like this and you can't even." Before he could finish, his hand started to peel, revealing white bone beneath the skin. Hu Zibiao trembled with pain, his body shaking violently. He tried to scream for help but was silenced by a tranquilizer shot to the neck, collapsing to the floor foaming at the mouth. The people behind him stared in shock, some too scared to breathe, while others turned away to vomit. The doctor frowned, about to reprimand the crowd, when the director walked by in a suit. His expression shifted, and he quickly followed the director out. The door shut with a sharp click, but muffled whispers could still be heard outside. "Director, you've come in person? Just a reminder, make sure you document the names correctly. They might come in handy." "Yes, I'll ensure everything is in order." After the doctor left, chaos erupted in the room, a cacophony of crying and frantic discussion filling the space. Only Yu Qing and a young man in a traditional Chinese outfit remained calm. The young man spoke evenly. The nurse mentioned that only doctors can harm patients. "As long as no rules are broken, we'll be fine. Everyone, stay calm and give your names in order." Before he could finish, someone tugged on his sleeve. He turned to see Yu Qing shaking his head, signaling for him to stop talking. Yu Qing walked to the front of the line and approached the male doctor. By now, the doctor had returned, kicking Hu Zibiao's body aside. Adjusting his glasses, he said coldly, "Next." The room fell into a deathly silence, the metallic tang of blood lingering in the air, suffocating everyone. The longer the silence stretched, the heavier it became. Yu Qing stepped forward, stammering as he gestured with his hands. The doctor grew impatient. State your name. Abie, Yu Qing struggled to articulate, pointing to his throat with a complex expression in his eyes. The doctor paused, then seemed to understand. Oh, mute. Yu Qing's expression shifted, tears welling up in his eyes as he gestured, seemingly blaming himself for his inability to speak. The doctor hesitated, a trace of pity flashing across his face. He handed Yu Qing a pen and paper. Write it down. Yu Qing stared at the paper, taking a step back, his pupils dilating in fear. The doctor noticed his reaction and pushed the paper closer, but Yu Qing retreated again, his eyes reddening with panic. You're afraid of writing? The doctor asked, his voice tinged with curiosity. Yu Qing nodded, his face full of gratitude, as if he had found someone he could trust. The doctor's mood lightened. He leaned back in his chair. Then type it yourself. Yu Qing nodded in thanks, his hands agilely tapping on the keyboard. When the doctor turned to pour himself a glass of water, Yu Qing entered a single character, Pi. A name that was simple and easy to remember. The doctor glanced at it and seemed satisfied. He motioned for Yu Qing to step aside and continued calling the next person. The young man in traditional attire observed quietly. Asterisk this name. The director specifically mentioned it. There must be some kind of rule embedded in it. It's probably tied to the naming process asterisk. Asterisk avoid being called. Choose a name so complicated or unpleasant that no one would want to say it asterisk. He stepped forward tentatively, stammering as he lowered his head. Hello. The doctor, holding his cup, paused. The young man hastily apologized. Sorry, I stutter. He then added, and I have to sing my name. The doctor's demeanor softened. That's fine. The young man cleared his throat nervously. My name is Zhongxiong Jili, Hangxiaiqi, Juju Duxing, Tihu Guanding. The doctor's expression froze, struggling to keep up. The young man continued, didn't catch it? Let me repeat. Yu Qing bit his hand hard, suppressing his laughter. After struggling to record the name, the doctor, now visibly annoyed, clipped a badge onto his chest. Next. The name on the badge was clear, Su Han. Yu Qing silently noted the name, opening his system space to check the stored ring clue, Su Han. The system notification popped up. Congratulations! You've unlocked the key clue, Su Han's severed finger. Plot exploration progress, 5%. Be sure to check if Dr. Su Han is missing any fingers. Yu Qing glanced at the doctor's hands. They were intact, with no sign of missing fingers or even a ring mark, leaving him uneasy. Suddenly, he remembered the badge on the corpse in the morgue upstairs. It also read Su Han. A chill ran down his spine, his hair standing on end. As his heartbeat quickened, the doctor's voice broke through the silence. This facility is haunted at night. Every evening, one person is selected to guard the morgue upstairs. I'll pick someone at random. So it really is about being chosen. Yu Qing exchanged a glance with the young man in traditional attire. Guarding the morgue at night was a death sentence. Everyone lowered their heads, their hearts heavy with fear. Beside the computer, the printer whirred as the doctor printed out the patient list. But when he checked the stack of paper, he discovered something strange. There were only 10 patients in total, yet the printer had churned out over 20 pages. Each person's name took up at least 2 pages. Even more bizarrely, someone who claimed to be blind insisted on writing their name. What they scrawled looked like gibberish, yet they adamantly declared it was their name. The doctor sighed. With this naming system, who wouldn't be exhausted? Suddenly, he thought of Yu Qing's name *Pi star. It seemed straightforward enough, and he felt a bit relieved. However, when he flipped to Yu Qing's entry, the name had expanded, 3.1415926, stretching endlessly. The system, perhaps wary of crashing, truncated it with a note, infinite continuation. Who Zi Biao? The doctor muttered to himself. This is section 1341. The processed content follows your instructions, maintaining the paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Finally, his gaze shifted to the unconscious rapist. Zi Biao will guard the morgue tonight. Everyone else, go to the first floor to get your room keys from the nurse and check in. The sanatorium rooms are 2 to a unit. Please respect the arrangements. Off you go. The crowd heaved a sigh of relief and quickly dispersed. Yu Qing was the last to leave. The consultation room grew eerily silent, a cold, damp chill quietly creeping in, brushing against his earring and entwining with his steps. The closer he got to the door, the slower his pace became. By the time he reached the doorway, sweat was already forming on his forehead. Just as he stepped halfway out, a cold voice from behind stopped him. Hold it. Patients must not clash with the doctor. Yu Qing turned around slowly. And in an instant, his eyes locked with the doctor's twisted, deathly pale face. That thing had somehow crept up behind him, its shoes nearly touching his. grayish-white eyeballs stared chillingly, and the corners of its mouth stretched into a grotesque, splitting grin. Suddenly, an icy hand grabbed his collar, nearly lifting him off the ground. Yu Qing held back any sound, keeping silent as befitted his mute persona. That horrifying face leaned close to his ear, the corner of his eye catching the grotesquely wide grin that reached the base of its ears. The next moment, a cold warning hissed in his ear, "Do not deliver medicine to my wife." As soon as the words were spoken, the doctor flung him out of the room. His back slammed into the iron railing in the hallway, producing a dull thud as pain shot through his body. His wife? Who was that nurse married to? Him? Or to the corpse, Su Han? So, he had killed the real Su Han and taken his place. Yu Qing's hands trembled uncontrollably. It took him a moment to steady himself and attempt to rise. Ignoring the frantic or sympathetic comments flooding the livestream, he looked directly at the doctor's eerie face and asked casually, "Nonsense. Is that woman actually your wife?" The doctor gritted his teeth furiously, as if his sore spot had been hit, his hatred intensifying. He stepped forward, ready to grab Yu Qing again. But after just 2 steps, he realized the bell on his wrist had stopped ringing. He tried shaking it a few times, nothing. The bell was dead. With no other choice, he turned back to shut the door, hurriedly checking it. As the door closed, the terrifying scene disappeared. Yu Qing stared at his hand, taking a few deep breaths before forcing himself to stand. He struggled to shake off the cold, oppressive air as he made his way downstairs. The nurse at the front desk glanced at him, her gaze a mix of concern and avoidance. She handed over the last room key with a serious expression. "Sir, this is your room key 104. Her movements were exaggerated, and Yu Qing caught a faint ding-ding sound. He noticed a bell hanging from her wrist. Casually, he asked, "I thought only patients had bells." "You have one too?" "Yes, all staff members do, even the director," the nurse patiently explained. "The bells ward off ghosts. If they stop ringing at night, the ghost will kill you." "What? That's way too dangerous," Yu Qing continued to probe. "So, are there spares? What if my bell gets broken?" "No." The nurse cut him off abruptly, her voice trembling with agitation. "There are no extras. The bell cannot break. If it does, you're done for." Her eyes went blank, as if recalling something horrifying. Yu Qing finally understood, everyone had a bell. If the bell broke, it meant certain death. Clearing his throat, he quickly offered some words of comfort before turning to head to his room. He also flashed the palm of his right hand to the bewildered livestream audience. In his palm lay the bell's clapper. The golden bell makes noise by the clapper striking its outer shell. Now that he had removed it, the bell would no longer ring. No, the bell would still ring. The livestream audience froze for a moment. It took them a full 30 seconds to react. Ah! The male doctor's bell stopped ringing when he closed the door. It's all because Yu Qing sabotaged it. He even took the clapper. Yu Qing was just fishing for info from the nurse, huh? Gosh, she's brilliant. Holy crap, I was scared out of my mind earlier. How did Yu Qing even pull that off? It must have been when he was grabbed by the collar. Qing used that mysterious golden needle to break the bell's clapper. She's incredible, I love her. But, where does she even hide that golden needle? Let me check, ha ha, ha ha ha. Yu Qing, ever vengeful, made sure to block the male doctor's escape route completely by storing the bell clapper in the system space, where no one could retrieve it. After purchasing his medicine, he was heading to his room when the sky outside suddenly darkened. Thunder rumbled, the surroundings dimmed, and a chilling sensation rose behind him, as though something lifeless was watching him. Its gaze was fixated, unrelenting. Yu Qing's instincts honed in immediately. His breathing quickened, his footsteps slowed, and his heartbeat grew erratic. Halfway through the hallway, his legs froze in place. Turning back, he saw that the lobby was now empty except for the on-duty nurse and a life-sized stone statue. It was an angel statue, standing atop a 3-meter pedestal, encircled by a ring of lifelike statues of the 12 zodiac animals. But, weren't these statues in different positions earlier? He distinctly remembered when he first arrived, the angel and the zodiac animals' eyes were all facing the entrance. Now, they were all staring at him. Moreover, the angel's eyes were no longer plaster white but an eerie, human-like black. Dizziness overcame him at the thought. Suddenly, crackling noises filled the air, the surroundings grew darker, and the angel statue's plaster cracked open. Thick, red blood gushed out, revealing a skinless, blood-soaked woman within. The woman's bloodied mouth opened wide, her black pupils locked onto him as she stepped closer, one step at a time. She quickly closed in on him, her rotting, blood-streaked hand gripping his neck with a crisp snap. Yu Qing froze, unable to move. His face turned blue as he stared at the bloodied face that drew nearer. Moments later, the woman opened her mouth to bite. Drip! A single drop of blood fell to the ground, snapping Yu Qing back to reality. Shaking his head, he realized it had all been an illusion. The blood on the ground was actually his cold sweat. His legs felt weak. He staggered back a step, taking a moment to catch his breath and barely steady himself. Clenching his trembling hand, he took several deep breaths before lifting his head to stare at the eerie angel statue. The Angel Mental Sanatorium was named after this blessed angel statue, but this statue, it wasn't just the angel. The surrounding 12 zodiac animals' eyes were also pitch black. They weren't the usual round, animal-like pupils. Yu Qing stepped closer to the statue, inspecting it carefully, and found the rabbit was missing. Where had the rabbit gone? Aha! Suddenly, a piercing scream echoed from the far end of the hallway, followed by a deafening clap of thunder. The nurse who had been at the front desk handing out bells had suddenly turned into a skeleton. Moam, I'm scared. Weren't the earlier beginner levels less horrifying? The nurses only turned into skeletons at night before, right? Why are they doing it during the day now? I really thought the streamer was done for this time. Scared me to death. Last time, no one stared at the statue. This time, staring at it too long, could it have triggered a hidden feature? Just as the chat started speculating, the system broadcasted, "Congratulations to the streamer Yu Qing for discovering a crucial clue, the secret of the angel statue. Plot exploration progress, 11%. Angel's killing intent has intensified, dungeon difficulty increased. Current difficulty, level 3, max, level 10. Please keep up the good work, streamer. The dungeon, leveled up?" The chat fell silent for a moment before erupting into laughter. Hahaha, my wife is so OP. Just by staring at a statue, she cranked up the difficulty. Love her to bits. Level 3 now? The kill potential just spiked, and so did the death rate. I'm dying laughing. Other streamers, oh. Yu Qing. The difficulty fluctuates this much? No wonder the game warns, play at your own risk. Taking a deep breath, ignoring the cries of the live chat, he turned and rapidly headed toward the direction of the screams. At the corner, the walls were smeared with blood, and thorny vines were lashing out in frenzied aggression, clearly targeting the young man in traditional Chinese clothing who had just shredded a talisman. The vines lashed like whips, striking viciously. In mere moments, the young man's back was a bloody mess. The whip seemed to grow more frenzied with each strike, gearing up for another blow when suddenly, Yu Qing tiptoed and covered the man's mouth with his hand. His wide, almond-shaped eyes scanned the area quickly, landing on a sign nearby. In a low voice, he whispered, "Don't make a sound." The young man, whose mouth was now muffled, spotted the sign that read, *, "Patients in the asylum must remain quiet. Loud noises are prohibited." *. Realizing the implications, he nodded fervently. His tense breath slowed as he exhaled quietly. The surrounding vines, like starving beasts searching for their prey, flailed wildly in all directions, their savagery unrestrained. Yu Qing took a deep breath and carefully led the man backward. Together, they retreated into room 104 nearby. Click. The door shut, and the surroundings fell into a temporary silence. The young man's back was still oozing blood. He gripped the doorframe tightly, peering through the small glass window to observe the hallway. It wasn't until the vines receded into the walls that he finally relaxed, turning to Yu Qing with surprise. "You're not mute? Yu Qing, and you don't stutter." "Ha?" The young man froze, then chuckled with a roguish grin. "I was copying you. Otherwise, I'd be sent to guard the morgue. Oh, by the way, I'm Qian Lai." He extended his hand. After a brief pause, Yu Qing shook it. "I'm 3.1415926. Qian Lai was speechless. "This place isn't safe," Yu Qing said. "We'll talk after we get out." He gestured for Qian Lai to sit, then began sharing information. "To clear the dungeon, we need to find a key. The main door is locked from the inside, and there's no keyhole. It might require an access card." After observing Qian Lai for a while, Yu Qing determined he was reliable, responsible, resourceful, and had some knowledge of the occult. Perfect teammate material. Security guards typically have those, Qian Lai analyzed. In the lobby, we only saw the director, a male doctor, and a female nurse. The doctors don't have it, so that leaves the director. Yu Qing finished, his cold sweat subsiding as his heartbeat steadied. He downed some medicine and opened the system shop to buy cheap external-use medicine. "Let's find the director first. For now, take off your shirt." Qian Lai looked utterly baffled. The live chat exploded? What about the boss? The Black Mist? Yesterday the streamer was calling the boss hubby, and today he's asking someone else to strip? Spicy. Will the Black Mist boss be mad? Can't wait for this to backfire. Paging the boss. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed outside, like a massive stone slamming into the ground. The piercing sound, combined with terrifying hallucinations, made Yu Qing's fingers tremble. He could sense looming danger as a strange, icy force seized the bottle of medicine from his hand. A cold, invisible energy immobilized his hands. The medicine was lifted into the air and then, plop. It spilled entirely onto Qianlai's back. Ah, ugh. Qianlai gasped in pain but quickly stifled his voice per the rules. Just as he was about to question Yu Qing, the room suddenly flashed a menacing crimson. An ear-piercing alarm blared, Angel has locked onto its sacrifice. White-haired streamer with a numerical name. Height, 176 centimeters. Yu Qing? Prepare yourself. We'll visit you at midnight. Tap. Tap. The night descended. In the ward, the second hand of the clock ticked rhythmically. The dungeon's midnight brought no moon. Black mist enveloped the area, blinding all sight. The eerie silence was suffocating. Step. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Run. The red drawer is full of blood. The white beds devour people. Run. Suddenly, a girl's voice began to sing, faintly audible through the door. The sound sent a shiver down Yu Qing's spine. He was tempted to boldly step out and investigate. But an oppressive coldness enveloped him, pinning him down. His body was frozen in place, fingertips heavy, breathing shallow, and his eyelids refused to lift. He was plunged into a darkness without end. Soon, he felt the bed beneath him begin to sink. The surface felt spongy and insubstantial as his body slipped into a void, his limbs unable to find any solid ground. He fell completely. The air grew colder, dampness clinging like a shroud. Faint, guttural murmurs echoed around him, whispering of dangers lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, Yu Qing jolted violently. An icy tendril coiled around his ankle, slithering up his leg and winding tightly around his waist. Cold. Bone-chilling cold. His breath turned to visible white mist, freezing into frost almost instantly. The young man's brows furrowed, his lips turning a pale purple. Was this thing trying to freeze him to death? Since he'd already been marked as the sacrifice, he had planned to rest and investigate later tonight. But now... The tendrils around his waist suddenly tightened. Yu Qing let out a muffled groan, gritting his teeth in an attempt to break free, only to find his wrists and ankles also ensnared. The more he struggled, the tighter the grip became. His clenched fists were forced open as the tendrils crept along his limbs, leaving him breathless. Suddenly, a cold, delicate hand brushed against his left ear. The touch was soft and smooth, gentle in its pressure, yet it sent a wave of shock through Yu Qing's heart. His strength drained away, and his eyelids fluttered open at last. What he saw was a pair of blood-red eyes. Those eyes were deep and otherworldly, like blooming flowers of blood in the depths of hell. Yet upon closer inspection, they exuded an air of regal elegance, compelling reverence. As Yu Qing continued to stare, he realized they belonged to a man with tousled black hair that contrasted starkly against his snow-white skin. His thin lips were flawlessly shaped, his nose sharp and defined, and his features seemed sculpted to perfection, devoid of any flaw. Even in the midst of this nightmarish darkness, the man was as beautiful as a deity. Those crimson eyes locked onto Yu Qing's, as cold and indifferent as an untamed wilderness, devoid of any emotion. Forced to meet his gaze, Yu Qing's nerves were taut like a bowstring. Suddenly, a sharp pain flared. His left ear was yanked harshly, the earring ripped from its place, leaving his ear throbbing and bleeding. His breathing quickened, and his forehead was slick with cold sweat. He tried to look to the livestream for help, but realized the system had malfunctioned. Tionid. This place was cut off from the outside world. No help. No guidance. In front of him, was this the true form of the Black Mist boss? Yu Qing was unsure, but survival was more important. Those eyes, devoid of flaws. He made a decision to create one. So, all that touching yesterday was just for this earring, he asked, enduring the pain. You should know, this earring has long since fused with me. It's part of my body, containing power. What exactly do you want? The boss's grip loosened slightly, the pain easing. Yu Qing looked up and stared directly into those crimson eyes. His fear began to fade, replaced by defiance. He provoked, I already consumed the power of the earring. Are you going to eat me just to get it? The silence around them returned. The man stared at him for a long moment, saying nothing, as if weighing his options, or perhaps distracted. The void around them was no longer icy cold. Suddenly, there was a ding sound. The system was back online. The screen lit up as the chat exploded. Babe, I found you. You went offline for 5 minutes, I was crying. What the hell? 2 men alone, tied up by tentacles? Babe's body has red marks from the restraints, so kinky, I love it. Oh my god, the Black Mist boss's true form. Like an eldritch god, I'm bowing. Licking the screen. The chaotic livestream pulled the boss from his thoughts. He turned his head, only to see Yu Qing seize the moment to free one hand, lift his arm, and kiss him. Lips on lips. A fierce, unrelenting kiss. The room fell silent. The boss, seemingly never having been treated like this, froze in place. His crimson pupils dilated sharply, and the tentacles behind him trembled. The scene shifted. Yu Qing had managed to free both hands, but the tentacles around his waist remained tightly wound, their red marks stark against his pale, delicate skin. Disheveled and battered, the young man's white hair was in disarray, his eyes rimmed red. Blood dripped from his earring, seeping into the void below. He strained his body, clinging tightly to the malevolent deity, refusing to let go of the kiss. The livestream chat went wild. Ah ah ah. Is this really free to watch? Take my money. My hands are shaking. On the screen, the boss slightly tilted his head as if to push Yu Qing away, but Yu Qing bit his lip in retaliation, drawing blood, and still wouldn't let go. A crack appeared in the cold indifference of those crimson eyes, creating an opening for Yu Qing. The tentacles around his waist loosened. The audience held their breath. This wasn't just a kiss. It was a battle for survival. Previously completely overpowered, blood still dripping from his injured ear, Yu Qing had no escape. But now, with a single kiss, he broke through the entrapment, igniting a spark of hope in the void. The spark grew into a flame. In the livestream, Yu Qing slowly sat upright, carefully locking eyes with the all-powerful boss. His fingers, trembling, released their grip only to reach for the man's neck. The boss was silent, but his expression was no longer placid and unreadable. Yu Qing realized that his chance to survive had come. And so, while maintaining the kiss, he discreetly retrieved a sharp double-edged blade from the system's storage. Host Yu Qing has drawn a weapon, aiming straight for the boss's heart. Just as the blade was about to pierce, the tentacles around Yu Qing's waist constricted violently, wrenching him away. The young man panicked, his gaze meeting those dangerous crimson eyes. The light in those eyes seemed to ripple slightly, and Yu Qing felt his heart leap into his throat. The tentacles tightened more and more, as if they were moments away from snapping him in half, crushing his organs. He felt like he was about to die. His blood surged, his heart pounding wildly, but Yu Qing's grip on the blade didn't falter. Veins bulged in his hand as he roared, "You want to kill me?" The boss's expression didn't change. He remained silent. "If you kill me, you'll never get the earring's power. But if you let me go, I'll tell you how to extract it," Yu Qing said, raising his voice with conviction. The beast-like gaze bore down on him, enveloping him entirely. The tentacles gradually loosened. Gasping for breath, Yu Qing seized the opportunity and wrapped his arms around the man's neck. In a soft voice, he said, "Darling." Switching to an even more intimate tone, he added, "Did you know humans have a saying? A gentle blade cuts the deepest." As soon as the words left his mouth, the blade plunged into the tentacle wrapped around his waist. The boss's pupils widened dramatically, and the tentacle recoiled violently. Seizing the opening, Yu Qing scrambled to his feet and fled. Time ticked by, every second stretched thin. The darkness behind him clung to him like a shadow. Yu Qing's entire body was cold, his hair standing on end, goosebumps covering his skin. But he didn't dare stop. He didn't even dare to look back. Because those crimson hellish eyes were silently watching him, toying with him like a cat playing with a mouse. Suddenly, the hands formed from black mist rested on his shoulders. With a heavy push, they stopped him in his tracks. Ugh, cough, cough. Yu Qing's heart nearly stopped. Forced to halt, cold sweat drenched him. Those hands gently patted his chin, his ears, his cheeks, wiping away sweat and blood. Before long, the dark hands playfully toyed with his long hair, slowly tying it into a loose, low ponytail. Then, a voice, haunting and distant, whispered in his ear, "The game has begun." The game had begun? The next moment, Yu Qing jolted upright in a hospital bed, drenched in cold sweat, his thin shirt soaked through. Frantically, he touched his ear, no wounds. That touch earlier, had the boss healed him? Or was it all just a dream? Yu Qing couldn't tell. As he moved to put on his shoes, he noticed his bangs were gone. Frowning, he reached behind his head and found a small leather tie with blue and black patterns, the very one he'd lost when the black mist first swallowed him. The boss had returned it to him. At the same time, ding. System notification, "Congratulations, host, on unlocking the epic hidden mission, play a game with the boss." Yu Qing stared at the notification in confusion. Game rules will be set by the boss. Enjoy the game. As the bells on his wrist jingled softly, Yu Qing woke up his roommate, Chen Lai, and even startled the little girl singing outside. The two exchanged a silent glance, instinctively quieting themselves, their eyes fixed on the door. In the hallway, the girl's singing stopped. Her footsteps grew lighter, slower, and closer. Squeak! The old hospital door creaked open. A shadow slowly stepped inside. Meanwhile, on the 9th floor, the morgue was shrouded in impenetrable darkness. The pristine white wall began to show signs of decay, seeping with dark red bloodstains. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The ethereal ticking of the wall clock served as a relentless reminder, stretching everyone's nerves to their breaking point. Hu Zibiao dragged his injured leg, crouched in what he thought was a safe corner, and stared at the occasional comments flickering across his livestream. Bet you anything, this stream will blow up tonight. Wait till after midnight, that's when it gets good. Can't wait. Come on, streamer, grow a pair. Where's all that swagger you had earlier, flirting with the nurse? These ghosts are nothing. Pick a decent looking corpse and go for it. Yeah, get your blood pumping. Come on, do it, we'll keep tipping you. Use the points to buy meds for your wounds. Win-win. Hu Zibiao wrestled with himself. Was it his own dark desires or the audience egging him on? Either way, he found himself mustering the courage to inch closer to a relatively good-looking female corpse. The body's been lying there all night. It shouldn't put up a fight, right? As he moved, the viewer count on his stream began to climb. The audience buzzed with excitement. Exactly. Yu Qing was sent here first and breezed through. LOL, Yu Qing was out in minutes, you can do it too. Hu Zibiao's wounds burned with unbearable pain, a searing agony he hadn't expected. He'd never imagined being injured could be this tormenting. But he had no time to dwell on it. His injuries were severe. Without points, he wouldn't survive. Swallowing hard, he hesitated repeatedly before slowly reaching out to unbutton the female corpse's clothing, wanting to get it over with quickly. But just as his fingers worked, suddenly, the overhead light went out abruptly, and the smell of blood grew stronger. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, the female corpse abruptly sat upright, turning her head to reveal a chilling smile. I'm the rabbit. The unworthy rabbit. Ah! Hu Zibiao collapsed to the floor in terror, breaking down into sobs and frantically begging for forgiveness in front of the livestream. But no one showed him any sympathy. The chat was flooded with mockery. Pathetic. All you do is cry? Without Yu Qing, I wouldn't even bother watching this crap. You? Think you're good enough to touch my girl? Pfft, look at yourself. Yu Qing's stream has new action. Let's go. As soon as that was said, his viewer count plummeted. Yu Qing hadn't even appeared on screen yet and still managed to steal his remaining audience. The second hand ticked relentlessly. Midnight finally arrived. At exactly 12 o'clock, every corpse turned their heads to stare directly at him. The lights went out completely, and the eerie sounds of chewing filled the air. The livestream flickered a few times before cutting out entirely. The next moment, the system's broadcast blared through with a piercing chime. Ding dong! Breaking news, Angel Psychiatric Asylum instance update. Survivors remaining, 5. 6 days and 1 night remain until the game concludes. Keep going, streamers. 5 survivors? 10 people had signed up that morning. Now half were dead, far beyond expectations. The game didn't disclose how the others had died. Yu Qing didn't know the details, but his viewer count had surged dramatically, and the chat was going wild. Wifey, Hu Zibiao was such a failure, can't even charm a corpse. Wifey, Chen Shi means also useless, lol. Wifey, Jiang sees a joke. You're the best. At that moment, Yu Qing's gaze was fixed on the doorway, his expression growing increasingly incredulous. What entered wasn't a little girl. It was a rabbit. A half-meter tall, plump yet short-limbed rabbit with long ears atop its head and a plush coat, except it had human eyes. Those dark, glistening eyes scanned the room before locking onto Yu Qing. Following its gaze, Yu Qing looked down at the bell on his wrist. Jingle jingle. He shook the bell, and the rabbit approached, its stubby legs stepping in bloodied little shoes, each step echoing with a distinct tap, tap. Its eyes were timid as it cautiously stood before Yu Qing, staring down at the bell. Then, without warning, it stretched out a furry arm to hug his hand and affectionately called out, Daddy. It was human. Yu Qing thought to himself, this must be the rabbit of the angelic realm, a missing piece of the 12 zodiac animals. The rabbit's fur brushed against his arm, and even through the distance, it made his skin crawl. It wasn't a rabbit. It was a rabbit assembled into human form. Its limbs were disproportionately short, clearly severed at some point. Its body was round and bloated, as if injected with some grotesque substance to make it appear more adorable. Its skin had been flayed and recovered with animal fur. This was far more horrifying than the eerie little girl earlier. Yet Yu Qing held this rabbit close, speaking to her, calling her daddy. He didn't use her name, nor did he show fear. He simply gazed at her with a gentle, loving expression, the bell on his wrist jingling non-stop. The bell rang like a lullaby, like an enchantment. He asked, Sweetheart, did you miss Daddy? Were you upset because Daddy wasn't here? The rabbit girl's eyes were drawn to the bell's sound, becoming hazy and unfocused. Her fangs retracted, and she instantly lost any hostility, clinging to him and sobbing, What? You're my real daddy. Tang Tang missed Daddy. Missed Daddy so much. Oh. Yu Qing softly called her Tang Tang. Finally, he let out a sigh of relief, raising a hand to smooth her fur. His voice carried a hint of sorrow. Tang Tang, where did you go? Daddy's been looking everywhere for you. Jian Lai, standing nearby, was utterly baffled. What the heck is going on? The livestream chat exploded. This is insane. The little girl identifies the person with the bell as her dad. If you call her by the wrong name, she'll eat you. 2 streamers just died. I nearly had a heart attack. Yu Qing figured out her name in 1 sentence and even reversed the situation to gather intel. Genius. Wifey's so warm-hearted. Other streamers see the girl and run, but he's got her bawling like a baby. And he can hypnotize too. Look at him shaking that bell, so impressive. Tipped plus 100. Yu Qing glanced at the comments, piecing together a rough understanding of the girl's situation. But as he held her, his expression grew darker. The girl stared into his eyes, her half-arm trembling as tears streamed down her face. After you left, a fake daddy came home. Fake daddy got drunk and hit mommy, kept hitting mommy. Mommy tried to protect me. She sent me away, told me to wait for her at the hospital. I shouldn't have been greedy. I shouldn't have taken candy from director uncle. Suddenly, the hospital door creaked open. Both Yu Qing and the girl turned to look. Standing in the doorway was a male doctor in a white coat, flanked by several skeletal orderlies. The doctor's face was cold and pale, his eyes a murky gray. As he opened the door, he waved impatiently, the newest offering for the angels. We're here to escort you to partake in the sacred ritual. Ah! The girl let out a cry. The doctor's gaze fell on her, and he smiled faintly. The rabbit has been found.